Today, in my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, I will be going over the laws of freedom and consider this another index page to show you that. And now, this song in the background is about the same length as the one you get on the Hue CD, but it's my remix with brainwaves and all that. And here goes. On the 11th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Assumption. The Law of Assumption, in most paths, amounts to living like your prayers will be answered or like you are in accord with God's will. Doubt as to potential for fulfillment or agreement with divine will can prevent the reaching of our aspirations. Aleister Crowley once defined magic as the art and science of religion, and another time as shifts in consciousness in accordance with will. That practice at stylizing the knowledge of a relation with Sugmad, God is a noun, and its creation will result in relationships that are productive to spirituality. Practiced with assuming desired feelings and spheres of focus or awareness will likewise make our aspirations more and more a reality, at least on the inner, if not in the outer worlds. From the 12th of the first month of 1437, I rewrote this for my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Attitudes. The law of attractions can be said to be as the law of attitudes, in that both refer to the manifestations that come forth from one's desires thought out. Spiritual practices can hone the higher mind towards using its ability towards spiritual attainment and using its ability toward spiritual attainment and experiences of sight and sound in a spiritual context. I am that I am of the Bible is ahya, our being that must have being, expression of being. Divine decree created the conditions it wills. To truly be in God, one has to identify and submit to that will with one's own will. Al-Quran tells of a person's attitudes determining one's fate hereafter and one's experiences in this life. We won't be able to trick ourselves about the reality, but we should live upon the attitudes that will awaken to it. Then we will remind people of the presence of the manifesting qualities of Sugmad, or God as a noun. This is done with the abilities we have. The submission should be complete and not abrogated or hypocritical. We should be willing to change for the better at any time. That beneficial change is not limited to a single spiritual program. We have to be ready to learn what we didn't even think could be learnt and act upon, which we didn't expect we'd have to react to. The continuance of bad karma, of actions against others, is really action against oneself. Hidden thoughts can become the words and other actions that form habits that may be difficult to change. Thoughts and feelings come and go, but we can affect change on their patterns through our attitudes of soul. Spiritual practices began before and right after sleep are something to understand the importance of. All arrogance must be cleared along with angry attitudes that form the downward spirals of bitterness, even to death. As soul, we should form an aware and relaxed attitude in order to become ready for how the spiritual master of our age works in our inner life as well as the outer. And in the Goetia, the quinary demon for this period is called Belial, without the yoke, without accepting a master. From the 12th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of balance. Balance, in an everyday sense, may not seem to be, except when the thought of in an eternal sense, except when thought of in an eternal sense. When the sense of a profound balance comes, the eternal nature of the law of balance is realized. Motivation or activity comes and goes, but it is often better to work with the cycles of rest and action rather than trying to force it out of its current balance. In Al-Quran, it mentions that divine love is not for the character trait of extremism. The spiritual life is the middle path law, or Sharia. Upon that balance, Sugdamad, our God we seek, lets us experience special sights and sounds. One will experience whatever when the time is right. We should keep seeking that experience. We should keep seeking the experiences of this way, of the eternal. Our lower self is of dichotomies. Our higher self is soul beyond opposition. A marriage dream may mean that the parts of ourself are initiated into operating more like the individual each soul is. Soul connects with spirit and with God. When we try towards this and fall short, guilt is fitting, but not to discourage the process. The depths can make the heights possible with patience and consistency. Being equiposed like this is part of the soul consciousness. The experience of that is part of self-realization. All comes back into balance as God intended. The spiritual master of the time shows the ways to maintain and restore all balance. From the night of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, connecting diamonds. It may be said that the secret to happiness, in a sense, is a sense of limits. This really being spiritual laws and time. Figuring out what those limits are there for gives it meaning and purpose that one can understand. Spiritual exercises may not seem like much at times, but when one realizes what they are like to be accustomed to doing, or what they may result in, brings forth the contentment with the practices. There is the obvious results of thoughts and actions, but often things will occur that just seem to be Sugmad, or God as a noun, working wonders in one's life. Sugmad, or whom we seek, has a plan for each. Some of this is laid before us like a map, but some of it needs to be sought out by following connections. Spiritual practices make this feel spiritual when this is incorporated into the practice. When the guidance comes in general, or just to us, we shouldn't resist or delay. We should start upon our success this very day. From the 12th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of destiny. Our destinies are individual potentials and duties we have in life. The form a soul inhabits and the situation of that being is in accord with its destiny. Yamaraj is what they call God as God of judgment and death in some Hindu mythologies. This divine role in this capacity is to give the placement in the afterlife that people deserve and are ready for. Many of our skills and abilities are not so much bestowed, but products of past gains. For those on the lower end of consciousness, predestination is fatalism. When one does with fate, what one does with fate is of their own making. What seems to be one's destiny is reached when undertaking a spiritual path sincerely. The longing for Ek, or sound current, is like this. A serious commitment is to follow the teachings of the prophet of the age. God's scriptures will begin to transform the outer existence of those who do it. From the 13th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Detachment. The Law of Detachment is much about being equiposed in pursuit of goals and elsewhere in life. Situations pass, and we must go on as before to our ability. All in life is impermanent. To shut off thoughts or emotions and feelings is not being equiposed. Detachment can be full of indulgence in the experiences while living a directed and unshaken lifestyle. That is being a Vairag. From the 13th of the first month of 1437, I rewrote this for my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Discrimination. Do we really need to do a specific ritual to acknowledge what wisdom is? Perhaps with wisdom related to that. Guidance comes from many sources, but we must learn which is godly and accept only that. Sometimes discrimination is for withholding action till a better choice comes along. Doing this rightly is called viveka. Knowing your own shortcomings is often the start to developing a spiritual sense of discrimination. Spiritual laws are to be the main focus rather than mental constructs. Focusing on what is better for spiritual growth is brought out through devotional exercises. From the 13th of the first month of 1437, I rewrote this portion of my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of something Part 2. Sha'othanpam ahurahe mazda Eshembo kamna mazda Eshembo. All good thoughts, good words, and good deeds are for the God of wisdom. Holiness is best. What protector hast thou given, O God? Truth is superior. We should uphold the virtuous for the God of wisdom, cast out pollution by the God, and maintain consciousness, controlling input through media and social outlets, as well as what we consume. These things change or maintain in what we are. Be aware of tolerance levels and build up instead of destroying. Also rewritten on the 13th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Economy. The Law of Economy is to make things easier and better for yourself and others. This ultimately is to be in accord with God's will. This submission by the spiritual adepts makes them develop at phenomenal rates when compared with those who resist or are discontent with the ways of life. The spiritual leader of the age knows where the realizations are revelations he has go into his prophetic book, and what greater laws they fall under. One who is a Nabi is an exemplar prophet who embodies or lives out the teachings he was sent with. The inner guidance can help one figure out and confirms what is necessary and what isn't worthwhile. That is to take the easier ways towards the same amount of good. All we get comes from our deserves payment. Don't display all your ability or means if you don't have to. Our goals may be primarily spiritual, but we still have to work on physical and mental terms. We should judge upon the whole rather than the surface. We should approach life wholeheartedly and not blame others or a path for our failures. This falls under cause and effect and love. You can't always skip steps. One should find the truth in the present, and figure out what weaknesses exist in ourselves or a system. It is about being more effective and conserving energy and resources. This is in service to God as a noun and verb, sugmod and ek. Typed up on the 14th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Facsimiles. Ibrahim, when asked by God if he believed, replied, "Yes, but I want to know." Facsimiles are the references to knowledge. The law of facsimiles is to build on convictions based on secondary sources such as belief and faith by seeking first-hand knowledge. The knowledge of certainty comes by bringing our beliefs out into our outer lives, while they are worked out internally as well. We make a record of what we encounter, since being incarnated in a physical body. Our destiny is within us from the beginning of our life. Some of this is a collective consciousness. These influence consciously or unconsciously. Our goal should be to cause an awareness of these effects. Also typed up on the 14th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, Invisible Laws. There can be said to be 7 rules to follow that remain an inner secret. I will appreciate the second-hand sources that I learned from. I will work on the purity of my intentions to realize my consciousness of myself, of my environment, of other sentient beings, and of God. I will give of myself for the universal God. I will work on perfecting my worldview towards what is in my best way to follow God's system. I will render devotional service for the universal good. I will depend on my own works for spiritual unfoldment. God will provide some attainment for spiritually valid thought and actions. Thus, the invisible laws are attainment, personal effort, devotion, idealism, unselfishness, sincerity, and appreciation. From the 14th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Karma. Morality and social programs are karma. What does one have to pay for what one gets in life? What does one have to pay for what one gets in life? Those in the mother stage will show relationship skills like gratitude. Those in the father stage will act according to codes and show tact. Those in the child stage will find new ways to give life in order to give back more. Aleister Crowley spoke of the problem of moralizing karma. Later people were worse with treating cause and effect as all reward and retribution. Islam is clear on the idea that not all good is deserved and not all bad is God's punishment. Life has many other lessons we have the opportunity to learn, as the law of continuance plays out. The monotheist path teaches that every bit of good will be seen. There is no ignoring the ultimate results, nor the immediate in most spiritual systems. One often has to figure out what the gray areas are. Confucius taught that ritual undoes certain effects in one's life. Eckankar focuses on making spiritual exercises affecting inner lives. People in leadership positions may still be in ignorance of cause and effect. This will be made known by how they act. Truly, some decisions require ignoring truths or not realizing them. Learning from the consequences is a sign of a mature soul. Not embracing life as well can bring disorders or hardship. Isaac Newton said, "Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Be aware of the karma that you cause to return to you." The hell realms of the afterlife are there till the violations of all its denizens are worked through. Those who deprive rights will have to pay with some of their freedom eventually. They will learn when they understand their book of life. Buddha Yoga teaches that it will not be any surprise where the judgment will place you, as you will know your spiritual records then. The Vaishnava or Bhakti movement has taught that each has their work to do, and it is not our place to do the work of others. This is true in the way that the spiritual obligations cannot be performed independent of those who took them on. In the child stage of development, we are to determine for ourselves what ways our terms are best for the soul, rather than merely accept what has been imposed on us before and after we reach the age of accountability. Cause and effect may seem too detached for many to learn from it. Being in a spiritual path is not a speeding up of karma. Does Eckankar involvement release byproducts of awareness that seem that way in its followers? Do people who practice the Bon way of Tom Glenn or taking on the suffering, hardship, disappointment of others really absorb that into themselves? If it is real, that will surely return somehow. Relationships in general are products of established patterns that can be broken. Just as those who feed off people for good intentions may have to face ill consequences, those who are psychic vampires for bad intentions will have to face consequences for that. We are the true victim for our offenses. Effects are impartial to whatever imbalance caused them: sensual, or emotional, or mental, or intuitive, or spiritual. Some say that beings of choice can escape cause and effect in terms of sin. This is a way of diluting the reality of karma. God is a verb, or the act will return all efforts. Liberation from this cycle of life can be had in this life by living the spiritual meanings of life here. Service to God requires serving creation. By definition, this is religion. It is the responsibility of those in charge not to cause the understanding of exact returns to fade. Ignorance is no excuse. Problems that built up over a while may take a while to fix, or at least do our part to repent. From the Vedic age and before was the teaching that we can gain the bounty of any undertaking that we sincerely start, even if we die in the process. The laws of the body and soul are to be learned now. Don't let those delays turn into surprises hereafter. The law of love is to love even those who don't do it because of your feelings. They will be taught their error at some point. What you do unto others may be done unto you, even without the same responsibility is not lost. Faith healings occur, but a lack of them doesn't disprove a path. You are credited for your influences too. The inner role of actions has its reactions too. There was action before you and it affects you. Some reactions are seen quickly and others may take a while. Since karma is a continuance of action, some matters must be continued. We have the free will to act in the best way for our placement. There was a predetermination before birth, but that does not remove our freedom to make the best choices we are capable of. God as a noun or sugman does not separate these causes and effects from its love of the lower worlds. Yes, they are less valuable realms, but they cause where we are to be in the higher planes. We should find and accept divine love. When we are loved, we then are required to love even those who did nothing for us. The continuance of love as a noun and verb is the highlight of karma that dispels the misunderstandings of it as harsh. From the 15th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life, the laws of nature. Creation was upon God's natural order, observing the mineral, vegetable, and animal orders of existence as part of the spiritual life. It is not right to add or subtract from balance. The religious life is an embracing of what is natural. Miracles can be said to be on this line, but in a way that seems supernatural in order to enlighten in ways that others' ways don't. The discontentment of change is addressed by focusing on the immortal spiritual reality, and Sugmad, our God we seek, whom created the negative and the positive. What we say about the material world is about ourselves because we are declaring what we perceive about our experience of it. Called Niranjan, or blameless throughout time, is what we call the power over the laws of nature, which we are subject to. Isn't that then Sugmad, or God as a noun, as nature is a reflection of X, or God as a verb's laws? My version of the spiritual laws of life, Harold Klemp, the Law of Polarity, was typed up on the 15th of the first month of 1437. Magic was defined by Aleister Crowley as shifts in consciousness in accordance with will. Using consciousness of the law of polarity is as such in the lower world. In the eternal realm of the spiritual paradise, there is nothing but benefit. Things are known in metaphysical realities by difference, but more as the best instead of parts. Consequences hereafter are according to the law of opposites. In life we must always react and be reacted to. Our duty is to serve spiritually despite that. When we identify an act as a passive element of balance between the opposites by which things are known, we are on the middle path by the waters of spirit, the chariot. We attract knowing what is and we attract knowing what it can mean to say, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, love is the law, love under will. Now, I don't think Harold Klemp mentioned Crowley, but I thought that would explain the paragraphs or pages that he wrote on that. From the 15th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of progression, unfoldment. The law of unfoldment is the same in Al-Quran when it says, there is no compulsion in having a system of judgment, and to me, my religion, and to you, your system of belief. Prophet Muhammad taught that God's curse is upon those who force people to join into the faith. This would not be teaching a soul to unfold, nor would it make the progression of society easier. Those who make great progression have more to do in the future, Every soul is to be in a progression like a hero who takes on and puts out love. Someone who works on God's side. From the 16th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Spiritual Protection. In Eckankar, own wings talk is of 970 mythical Eckmasters, which represent guardian angels. It is possible to have experiences of beings beyond human existence. Psychosomatic ailment and blockages can be dealt with through imaginative techniques. That which can be overcome is the harm that only gets through if we let it. Creations are not to force spiritual protection on those who don't accept it. Conclutsu said, "Do unto others as you would like it to be done unto you." The law of spiritual protection is a soul is to be offered the spiritual protection the community and its leader can offer. When we do not choose to go it alone, we hold better to the spiritual way of the other followers and their leader. On the 16th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Resonance. The Law of Resonance is to resonate with one's current rank. Sura is a word for rank. In essence, one attains a rank with each of the 114 su'ar of Al-Quran. One learns. In Eckankar, one is expected to be in tune with the waves of the physical world upon the first initiation. There must be over 13 further initiations in Eckankar, as the spiritual notebook by Paul Twitchell claims many planes exist past the 14th, which is Akshar realization. Those who don't live up to their initiations are called deadlies in Eckankar, but in Islam, they may be hypocrites, or those who live a split life. Sometimes they just lack the wisdom to expound their teaching. Learning is of value in itself. Astral or physical phenomenon are to be embraced more with the second initiation in Eckankar. This is where ghosts, astral travel, and UFOs are said to be of this type. Astral or physical or psychic phenomenon are to be embraced more with the Akashic or Hall of Memories is said to open up with the third initiation. The expansion of the intellect and intuition draws the goal for development with the fourth. One is supposed to dwell as one on the plane numbered with one's initiation. The fifth Eckankar initiate is at the first level of higher initiates, all of whom are supposed to have the duty to live as spiritual beings beyond duality and permanent embodiment. Little is said about those who of the invisible sphere are a sixth, the feeling sphere are a seventh, the truth or reality sphere are an eighth, the unapproachable sphere are a ninth, the having no name sphere are a tenth, the Sugmad world are an 11th, the Sugmad are a 12th, or Akshar realization are the 13th. With Paul Twitchell, the fifth initiation was needed to become considered the Mahanta or eminence, the living Eckmaster. He died with the label of a ninth Ek, our spiritual initiate. That became the rival point of being considered Eckmaster for the next two. Darwin made his way to be considered a 12th by 1983 of the Common Era. But Harold Klemp asserted that he was a 14th himself at some point in the 1990s. The 2nd through 8th Ek, or spiritual initiations, are only outer Eckankar, are the only outer Eckankar initiations. Ultimately, initiation is a mystery till you have had that particular one for yourself. Each has its resonances. So by Harold Klemp claiming he's a 14th, or I don't know if he's claimed further by now, you end up with him claiming that he is imperishable. He's beyond being God as a noun, according to his own claims. He's imperishable, but he, can't write his own letters half the time. I'll let you dwell on what sense that makes. From the 17th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of reversed effort. The law of reversed effort is to focus away from what you are abstaining from. Things of a physiological addiction or desire may be harder to quit when they are focused on instead of the alternatives. Suppression can make the repressed desire stronger or a problem of another form. The positive focus needs the intellect and emotions or overwhelming negative imagination and feeling may manifest despite trying to force otherwise. By negation, trying harder can reverse efforts. From the 17th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of spiritual growth. Just because one figures something out, it doesn't mean you were the first, or that it is to be your exclusive property. The Eckankar view of the spirit of spiritual growth is much like the dispensationalist Christian. It isn't as much an idea that people change or crystallize the teaching or body of teachings, as Islam or Mazdaism would have you believe. It is the idea that spiritual realities can change so much over time that the referral to them needs to grow with the society to stay valuable and true. The Ekist, our believer in Eckankar, would, however, agree that spiritual growth can continue to come by the same techniques. The lower level of existence is where things slow down with time. Spiritual practices can stop stagnation and speed up spiritual growth along to the point of liberation of a soul from the wheel of 84. The metaphysical laws determine how and when an individual makes the paradigm shift away from underdeveloped beliefs and practices towards an orthodoxy and orthopraxy that will provoke spiritual growth, that will guarantee experiences of success in the cycle of life and death. From 18th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of unity. Focus that is in ignorance of unity can easily mean failure. The law of unity can result in what they call universal consciousness, inasmuch as it looks at all as sort of a unity. The awareness of the whole situation is what's called being in God, in Ek. As far as he is still working towards the solutions to problems spiritually. From the 18th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of vibrations. The law of vibrations is, as the Buddhists say, all's impermanence. The physical is constantly changing on some level. even an action must go through a cycle. The law of harmonics is that all essentially works together. These movements of the whole can be observed. Napoleon Hill's best-known book was centered on this law of vibration, but the final edits of Think and Grow Rich cut out the word vibration all over the place. Our observation and reaction is under vibration. Our observations and experiences are of different vibration. In the physical, we know light, sound, smell, touch, and feeling. The metaphysical is likewise known by how it moves us in such ways. All movement and reaction is under vibrations and its law. And Q in the background here is said to be translated as it. And there's spiritual law painting again.